Currently, the United States is widely considered a magnet for Mexican immigrant laborers, looking for that elusive yet illustrious quality of life that America seems to promise in the forms of a robust economy, job opportunities, and the enticement of hope. But in the past, this common sentiment was far from the truth when the first Anglo-Americans began to interact with these Mexican natives. Contrary to popular belief, it wasn't Mexicans who crossed the border, it was the border that crossed them. In fact, the lands of Nevada, California, and Texas, which we now declare as the property of the U.S., was under lawful Mexican proprietorship long before the states even manifested. The first tillers of the soil were Mexicans, the first business owners were Mexicans, and the very first cattle ranches were of Mexican nationality. But this insular environment that fostered economic stability and invariably benefited Mexicans would soon change as overzealous settlers traveled west in search of land not yet exhausted of its fertility. Warfare didn't ensue, but it was common for settlers to use deceit to trick Mexicans into giving away their land for territories that were fallow and had very little value. As a result, tension began to brew between the two polarized constituents as more and more settlers began pouring into the southwest of the continent. The feelings of unrest amongst the natives were confirmed when Americans declared Texas as an independent country separate from Mexico. Mexicans, of course, refused to recognize this and waged war against what was thought to be a fledgling and feeble government in 1835. But Texas was decisively victorious and reaffirmed the Republic of Texas in 1836. All these developments soon snowballed into the Mexican-American War in 1846, when Texas, still considered Mexican terrain by Mexican citizens, was added to the United States. And once again, Mexico was down for the count. The US of A had complete political leverage over the downtrodden nation. So Mexico was forced to sign the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty in 1848 and conceded to hand over the majority of their northern region to the victors. This proved to be detrimental to Mexicans residing in this annexed territory, for they were reduced to second-hand citizens within their respective communities.
The Immigration Act of 1917 barred many ethnicities from entering the country, creating job opportunities for Mexicans who were allowed to enter the country during certain economic conditions such as existed during World War I. As soldiers went away to fight, Mexican immigrants filled the jobs they left behind. They were recruited through newspaper ads or word of mouth. During the Great Depression, many Americans were angry about the lack of jobs and blamed Mexican immigrants. This caused the government to initiate a repatriation program. During this program, an estimated 500,000 people of Mexican descent left the United States, and of this number, an estimated 60% were U.S. citizens. As World War II took us out of the Great Depression, the U.S. needed more laborers to support its surging economy. Many agricultural workers left their jobs to find more lucrative jobs in growing sectors, creating a large vacancy in the farming industry. As a result, in 1942, the Bracero program was created, which granted Mexicans temporary immigration in order to work. The Braceros were forced to sign their contracts in English, which meant they didn't know their rights and details of their contract. Many Braceros outstayed their contract, causing an increase in illegal immigration. In 1954, Operation Wetback began, in which the government attempted to deport illegal aliens. The government did little, however, to differentiate between illegal immigrants and Mexican Americans. In 1954, a total of 1.1 million people were returned to Mexico.
In 1962, Cesar Chavez joined the revolution, organized the NFWA, or the National Farm Workers Association. This organized the Mexican immigrants and helped give them a voice to fight for their rights, specifically in the agricultural department. In 1964, the Bracero program is finally repealed, and workers view this as a step toward unionizing. But in 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act limits immigrants into the U.S. Ted Kennedy spoke of it and said, in regards to immigration, that it will not cause American workers to lose their jobs. This told the immigrants that they weren't highly regarded and that the road ahead would be filled with many struggles. Immigration hits the headlines in 1996 as Bill Clinton decides to take action by intensifying the border control and installs 40 miles of 14-foot fence. In 1998, he signs a declaration with Mexico to devise a joint strategy for combating the drug trafficking. Clinton was the first president since Jimmy Carter to visit Mexico, as he promised to avoid mass deportations of Mexicans under the new U.S. immigration policy entitled the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act. This made it easier for the U.S. to deport aliens without proper documents, hence the trip to Mexico.
Currently, Mexicans make up about 10% of the U.S. population, at around 30 million people. Also, Mexicans make up about 24% of the foreign-born population in America. Mexicans make their mark both illegally and legally. There are an estimated 11 million illegal immigrants residing in the United States. Mexicans make up 57% of these illegal immigrants. The reason they moved north to America is due to harsh conditions and not a lot of well-paying jobs back in Mexico. About 40% of the population today in Mexico is below the poverty line, while only 4% is unemployed. 25% is considered underemployed. With an average salary of only $4.15 an hour in Mexico, going north becomes a necessity for better paying jobs. The United States and Mexico have tried to combat the illegal immigrants with treaties like the North American Free Trade Agreement. This puts many U.S. companies in Mexico to manufacture goods, but there are not enough jobs to meet the growing demand. Arizona has taken a more direct approach with the Arizona bill. This bill states that a police officer can pull over a person and check their papers if they think that person looks like an illegal immigrant. The people of America are uncertain as to how they feel about illegal immigrants and Mexicans in the United States today. Some argue that they are good for the economy because they do jobs that no one wants to do, and they do it at really low wages, while others believe that it is not good because they are sending money out of America and back home. They are also using up taxpayers' money at their benefit, such as health care. Overall, Mexicans' lives have been greatly affected in America by legislation. Whether it be the Bracero Program, Arizona bill, or many others, they have affected the daily lives of Mexicans living in America today.